G'day and welcome to the second video, if you like, on doing the body mounts on the Plymouth. I didn't film some stuff I probably should because I was nervous as I was doing it, particularly jacking up the body. It's one of those things that you turn the camera on and everything goes pear-shaped. But having said that and having finished it now, it's actually an easy job. If I had a hoist, it would have been a doddle. But lifting up one side of the car, replacing him, lifting the other side of the car made me nervous. Just in this environment, which is crowded and pretty useless. The candidates. This is what I'm talking about. It's kind of like you got a new block of land, a new house, and you got dirty old stumps holding it up, and you can see why I wanted to change them. They're knackered. Look at that, munted, absolutely knackered. And these are probably the worst of them. But I'm sure as heck glad I've done it now. And you know what? Some of it is kind of good because I'm learning more about the car, and also that one's freaking gone as well, and the rest of them are just, they're rubber and they're going in the bin. Yeah, I mean, they're just destroyed. I'm learning more about the car, but not just that, I'm finding bits and pieces, do you know what I mean, that need to be done. And you know, rusty old fasteners, put on new fittings, if you know what I mean. And you know, this is wheeler deals that'd be acceptable, but I think I've already made that joke, haven't I? But not for me. I want it to look really good. I want it so when you get under it, it's like, wow. And that's kind of what I've achieved in the past with some of the rubbish I do, but anyway. So the Plymouth now is at the point where I've also, in this one, we take all the brake lines out. He's got new rubber hoses and old brake lines, and I don't want that either. And we've taken the bumpers off, and I think I did that last time, but I stripped them down. So it's one of those things where now the foundation of the car's good. It just means we can move forward. I haven't torqued the body down yet. I've nipped it up. I just want to let it sort of hunker down and settle, then I'll go around and I'll torque it up. I think 18 foot-pounder though, it did seem to want to squeeze some of them quite hard at that torque setting. I don't know. I'll get around that somehow. So I know in the manual some of them are shimmed to adjust shut lines, but all the shut lines are really good. Man, whoa, white-tailed spider, you're gonna die. Look at this guy. These are bastards, these things. I never kill spiders unless it's one of those guys. Ugh. Yeah. Did I get him? Yeah, I got him. Redback spiders and white-tailed spiders, death sentence. I kill them straight away. It's the only spider I kill. I don't kill anything else. I kill flies, mozzies, whitetails, and redbacks. So we're at the stage now where I just have to order a master cylinder from the States. I'd love to put a twin circuit one on, a dual circuit one. The later Furies and stuff had them, or the later cars had them. I think the Galaxy was a 66, that had single circuit, and I changed it to dual, and I think the 67 had dual, so it was sort of 10 years later. But for now, because it sort of negates getting engineers to begin all this business, I can't be bothered. I'll just put the original type of master cylinder on, drive the thing around, and then later on, if it even looks like it's going to give trouble, I'll change it out. And it's an easy job to do, provided you get the right one. So, the other thing I've been tinkering around with, the XC, I've sort of come to a halt. There's nothing else I can do to it till I get the guards. The Bluebird's got to be put on the road, and I'm going to start on that soon too, because Rosie needs to do her learners. She's 19, she hasn't got her learners, and Suzanne, when she comes down from up the country, she's going to want a car to use because she likes being on the train, and so I want it for that. And also Charlie wanted to use it, and I probably will too. So that's just a case. I've done all the work on that aside from a set of tyres and front end bushes. So I've got to do the front end bushes and just give it a bit of a clean up underneath, and then I can take that in for roadworthy. And the MG this summer, I'm going to be painting the MG's bonnet and boot because the paint is stuffed on the front of the car. It looks awful, and the car still looks quite tidy. So I'm just going to paint just the upper panels on the MG just to make it look nice, even though it does need dog legs and stuff like that in it. That's what we're going to be doing this summer as well as the Sigma, because the Sigma just looks so trash, and it did look so good, but of course there was a problem with the rear quarter with some of the paint I was putting down was rejecting, and I had all sorts of trouble because somebody did something dodgy, underneath, and it didn't come up too well. So the RC stuff is a bit YouTube suicide. No one seems to like it. I got, I think, 1,000 views, but I kind of enjoy it. You know what I mean? It was another chapter of grabbing something that was trash and making it look good again and operate. It's the same sort of mindset, if you will, for fixing up vacuum cleaners and fans and all that sort of stuff, which I've done in the past, and washing machine and just mowers, you know, anything that is knackered, I like fixing up. And that's what came of that. And it also was a great exercise because Rosie, Charlie, and I went up to, you know, the scout hall up there, and we had a ball. We had a ball with them. So, anyway, this is about the Plymouth, so I hope you enjoy. Right, let's revisit these Plymouth mounts. Starting from the front, we've got the radiator, which is the wrong type, but I'm going to make them fit. We've got two forward mounts. There's a issue with that in that these were painted on the shell with a lot of thread. I would have thought there'd have to be a corresponding mount on top of that, but it doesn't matter for now because as long as I leave the guards off, oh, I got a message, I can add that mount later, or that rubber later. As long as it's got one insulated in the body, I don't really care until I find that out. Then we've got these three, those three, that bolt's the wrong one, so I'll change that over. The correct shorter ones are in the car now. Just holding the left hand side down, more messages. The two inboard ones, the two that don't go through the body or the chassis, they're just pads that sit there, and of course these two which go down into the frame from the boot. And we had one good one and one munted one. Now, what I've got to do is I have to turn some tube, so I've got to get these really central so I can fit a sleeve down there, and then I can just add that after as well, because that's the part that's compressed. This is the part that sits on top. Oddly enough, the boot actually has ones that sit on top, and the body ones, both of them underneath the car, and the forward one, that's underneath as well. There's nothing actually on top. So, and that's going to be told otherwise, as long as I get the first part of it right, I don't care. So what we have to do is take those boxes out of there, remove the rear bumper, and also there's a panel on the floor on the driver's side, oh gee whiz, which is, you can't really see, it's on the floor under there, that black thing. So the column stays on the chassis, the steering box is mounted to the chassis, there's no bracket underneath the column, there's a rubber there but there's no bracket. So I'm going to take that floor section out there, clean it all up, make sure it hasn't caused any issues. And the fuel tank and the filler stays. So just the rear bumper and the floor section for the column, and I think we're good to go. Right, so here we are inside the car. I've taken that panel out. We've got the frame of the car sitting there, which is beautiful. It's all been redone. That mount has just got a rubber on top of it temporarily. We put that in last time. I'm holding this side of the car down. I'll slacken them off a bit, then lift the other side, then I'll come back here and do these ones. The master cylinder, I think the people that had it before me had a shot at bleeding it. Then I took the master out, went to a mate of mine that's got a brake shop. We had a look at it, we couldn't fault it, put it back together, and it's consequently leaked out. And sort of all that brake fluid sat around in here 2 years ago. So I'm going to actually wire brush the snot out of this just to make sure there's no issues. There's rusty coloured deposits there and this sort of stuff. I want to see what's there. I hate this deadener stuff. I hate it. And the reason is because I think it hides a multitude of sins. But I want to get it down to bare metal, and then I'll put a bit of, pardon me, phosphoric acid on it, and then I'll paint it. I only want a very thin layer of paint between what I can see and the bare metal itself. I'm not interested in, you know, making it, in deadening the whole thing or putting dynamite or any of this stuff in. I really don't. I'd sooner a noisy car that I can see everything with. Pull the carpet back, you know what's going on. So that master's knackered. I'm just going to buy a new one. I'd really like to put dual circuit brakes in, but that means engineering it, and I would sooner do that later when it's on the road. It just means changing over your front or your brake lines and putting a Falcon one or something in. But I want to have a good look at these floors. I did see a pinhole on the firewall somewhere. Where is that? And if worst comes to worst, I'm going to clean it all out anyway, and any pinholes, anything like that, I'll just weld up. If it needs a patch, I'll put a patch in, but I think the deadener sort of made the floor look a lot better than what it probably was. It is good though. If you look here, hang on, like the brake fluid's gone underneath there, and we're pitted, and it looks crap. So all that's coming off. I want to see what's there. In the meantime, I'm just going to slacken these mounts off this side, and we'll jack the other side up and change the rubbers. Right, well, I've jacked this up. I've got stands under it as well. Normally you would do this on a hoist, a two-post hoist. That is how the mount is, which I didn't know. So I thought that was part of the chassis coming down. The other thing is, you know, we've got this sort of thing. They are so knackered. But it's interesting to see that's against the floor, you see. And then you've got the rubber underneath it. And the male part of the rubber faces down. Which I thought that was for the floor, that bit. But it's not. It's actually for the chassis. Well, this isn't too bad. It's not difficult. I was just worried about buckling the body or whatever because I didn't have the right equipment to do it. But we got them in, except... Where's the outrigger? See, that bush on this side needs to sort of get poked through. But, you know, they've all got to be sort of poking through there and, you know, looking a little bit healthier. I've replaced that one up there. This one seems to be under a bit of duress. That was really squashed. So yeah, I've just got to go around and what the hell is that? Oh, yeah, that's right. Go around and sort of finesse the way they're fitted. The inboard one over there was a bit of a pain, sort of over yonder, but we're looking okay at the moment. It's looking fine at the moment. Got them all in. This side's not tightened up yet. Down there somewhere. The only thing I need to do on the other side is I haven't put the bottom halves on because the little male part's not going through the chassis properly yet. So it's getting dark. I don't really want to do any more tonight. It's getting cold as well and I'm still in the shorts. But you know what? It seems to be pretty good so far. I've got everything fairly central. Replaced those ugly ones under there. That one in there with the stud, I had another go at getting that stud out and it just isn't going to come, and I didn't want to break it, so I managed to jack that side of the car up thanks to removing the floor part over there just to clear, or just so it'll clear enough just to sort of get the mounting over it and then drop it down onto that stud. So it's all looking pretty good. I've just got to maybe jack the other side up a tiny bit tomorrow just to reposition those little male parts to go through the frame, and I reckon we're good. We'll put it all together, knit them down in some sort of order, and I think you torque them to 18 foot-pound, and then that's the mounts done. I'll be stoked with that. So, you know, it's all good. The next thing after that, I guess, we'll pull this seat out and start getting rid of all that surface rust on the roof. And the other thing I don't like about this car, I hate it, is the single circuit brakes here. That's a new master. The original one's on the floor over there, and they also had trouble with it. I had trouble with it, and not just that, they're not that safe. So I'm going to stay with it. I'll buy another master. I'm going to get these brake lines done too, and you know, bleed it. But the first sign of it giving any trouble, I'm just going to change it to dual circuit, and all that means is making some new brake lines and sticking a dual master in it. Just got to get it off a four-wheel drum car. And the other one is down there on the floor, right there. That's the original one of the car. But it's going to be good. And this is something I've dreaded doing. And really, it's not a big deal. It's pretty straightforward. But it is an absolutely beautiful car. I've seen a couple of hardtops here, but they're not in that condition. I mean, it's dirty and all that sort of stuff, but underneath it's just so pristine. Everything about it is really pristine. And, you know, the Exner cars, particularly this one, the 57, I mean, anything 1957 is cool, but I think as far as this style of vehicle is concerned, I think it's one of the best looking things that's come out of the United States. I think they're beautiful. Right, I've just got to pack up a bit now. I'm losing track of time. Rightio, so I've got the Plymouth bumpers off, and hopefully the wind's not bothering you too much. Some of these are that stubborn. They were left on the bumper when the car was being restored, so I've just cut through them. They're just spinning inside those square holes, and so I've just sort of cut down. Half the nut falls off, the other half does. Here I've got two hands. There we go. And oh no, it didn't. You get the picture. That half comes off, and then it all falls out. So yeah, I want to pull them apart. One, because it makes it easier to store them. These are a two-piece, and that one's a little bit bent, and it does need some work. It might even be cheaper getting a decent second-hand one if I can find one. Right, let's go under the Plymouth and have another look. One thing I've noticed is Epitect, the frame, which is absolutely great. You can see under here, the quality works lovely. It's just dirty. The fuel tank's been put on at the last minute. You can see there. That doesn't look very nice, but it's still functional. The shackle bushes, that could get knocked back. There's a bit of perishing in there, but it's not a big deal. There's a couple of things I need to know. Well, firstly, let's have a look. I don't know if he's painted shocks or actually put new ones in. They look fairly new. Let me have a look up here. It's funny, I've had this car for 6 years? 5 years. And I've barely been underneath it. The other thing I've noticed, actually, is the tail shaft. That's just been thrown back in. And I can see in behind the unis, behind the cups. So what I'm going to do is take that out and put new unis in and paint the shaft up. The rest of it's just absolutely stunning under here though, and I've also got to check diff oil. I don't even know if it's got diff oil in it. It's got a snubber on it, like a 9-inch. It's obviously not, but look at the frame. Isn't it gorgeous? I'm very fortunate to have this car. Right, so what I've got to do is take these brake lines out. I'm going to change all the steel lines off that, where the breather is. So this one here, which isn't routed the right way, and I've got to take this one off down here, and also the front ones, because I'm going to change all the brake lines out. One thing I want to know about, well actually, I did a little bit of measuring, and the, what do you call it? The bumper comes to about level with the bottom of this. Perhaps a tiny bit under so exhaust can come through. I'm going to put twin exhaust on. It's got these brackets. There's one over there. It's got the same one here. Is that a factory dual exhaust bracket? I'm not sure. They're threaded in to the frame. I wonder if it had dual exhaust on it when it was new. It's got the bigger engine, which is nice. So yeah, I'm going to take that off. I'll take the wheels off too. What are those rubbers there? Look alright. The, what do you call it, the rebound rubber things, the bump stops. It's just filthy. That's all. But it wouldn't take much to get it looking really, really good. That fuel tank, that's got a bit of surface rust showing through. Might not be a bad idea to get that endoscope and stick it down there and have a look. I'll do it when the car's outside, not in here though, in case I cause a fire. But I'm actually delighted with it. There's my mounts. Nice and tight. I do have to put nuts under there. So they're the mounts I replaced. Can we see? Where are they? These ones up here. So that's good. And on the inside there's a thread hanging down in there. And the same on the other side. I don't think I'll put the, yeah, no, I haven't put the nut on there yet. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to take these brake lines out though, just so I can measure them and get new ones. Well, I've taken the rear brake lines out. I'm just going to take the front ones, but I have to take it as one, if you know what I mean, because the block where they connect, the nuts, if you like, are just rounding off. Even if you use a flare nut spanner, it's just not working. So I'm just going to undo it from the master and just sort of lift it out as one. and hopefully I don't get brake fluid all over everything. Although I think it's pretty much depleted. I don't think there's anything in there. So it should all be good. And we can just unhook it. Oops. And just draw it out like this. And these are the original brake linings. They've not been replaced, and it's another thing which, you know, should have been, if you know what I mean. You can see in that centre section it's a sort of rusty and that sort of thing, so it's never going to be any good. So I'll wash this out with water just to neutralise it. There's brake fluid coming out of this one here, which is new brake fluid. This is the stuff I tried to bleed it with. But I'm going to disassemble it on the bench. Water makes this stuff completely harmless, and I'll dry out that junction. But I don't know if you can see that milkiness just makes it completely harmless. And I can block that one and get it through the other one. There it goes. I've got to force it a bit. Here we go. Just really make sure it's clear when it comes out. I just don't want that stuff going all over any of the other cars. I think that'll do. You can see the bumper bars here. I've got to get rid of some oil. I normally recycle the oil. Bumper bars are stripped and ready to be chromed, but I'm not going to do it yet because of the financial side. They're not going to be cheap to do. And there's going to be some level of straightening and all that sort of stuff that needs to be done as well. We've got a bit of a mess here. Lots of bumper hardware. I do need to source some of these. They're kind of knackered. If worse comes to worse, I'll just make them by basically machining a bolt head and making a dome on a lathe and just welding it on. But I'm sure there'll be some sort of, you know, aftermarket available, but there's only a couple of these that came off in reasonable nick, and even then they're all dented, so I don't really want to put those back on, particularly if I'm spending all that money on rechroming. The brake lines all look the same in terms of flaring, so I'm going to go, I've made up the main big, what do you call it, long one that goes from the front end to the back. There's this one here as well that goes from the master into the junction. That's probably okay, but I will make a new one of those too, I think. I haven't got Bundy for that. I've got all this 316 stuff, but not that. These hoses, I'll keep this, I did obviously put water through there. These are April 2006, so I imagine he had them bought out from the United States because they're labelled Dorman, and Dorman make all your masters and stuff of these things. So he put a new set of these on the front and back, but not the steel lines, and that's where I'm coming in. I'm going to make sure that gets done properly. The what do you call, wheel cylinders look like they've been replaced, or at least from memory, I think. There's another bunch of stuff I have to get plated and this sort of stuff too, but that's, you get sick of me talking about that sort of thing. Including these bumper irons. That's just one of the front ones. Yeah, that is a front one. I can't be bothered wire brushing and painting that. I mean, I could just rattle can it, but it's easy just throwing it in a box and getting them to dip it and, you know, do what they need to do, and it comes back nice and rust free, and also, you know, corrosion resistant if you get it done like that. So I need to buy a master. That's going to be ex-USA, and when I get the master and make these up, at least then the car will be drivable because I'll have brakes. It has a handbrake, and the guy that had the car before me used to drive it around on its handbrake, but I don't want to do that because if I can't just roll it to a stop if something goes wrong, if you know what I mean. There's no room here. So once that's done, I think I might get an exhaust put on it. Then I can run it properly. Yeah? And that means trailering it down to an exhaust joint. There's one in Ringwood, one in Croydon, and that's not going to be cheap. But I am going to use a dual system. I'd like to know if anyone knows anything about these in terms of how you ascertain if it's got factory duals. Just a moment, I want to show you something else. Is this really rusted plate showed up. Hang on. And it says P31-3. That's 318, is it? Can someone tell me? I don't really know what I'm talking about with these things. But I measured the stroke and the bore, and it is a 318. So it'd be good if this was, if that's the option tag and all that sort of stuff. There's not much of it left, so I can't really tell what's been, how the car was delivered in 1957. But we're moving along well with it. We're moving along really well. So I don't know what's coming next. I've got these RC things that don't seem to be very popular, but I don't really care, you know what I mean? I kind of just enjoy tinkering around with that stuff. Right, so that's pretty much what I'm up to now. The brackets for the exhaust are there, and on the other side as well. I wonder if there's a way of telling if it had factory jewels. I need to speak to the ex-Naguru, and that's Scott Newstead. He'll know. Even if it didn't, doesn't matter, I'm going to put them in. The other thing is, it's a two-barrel car, and I know people were quite surprised that Miss Belvedere, which was a hardtop, was a two-barrel car that had jewels as well. The other thing is I'm missing this sort of rolled panel that goes along, and it sort of goes along and then it flares out to where the bumper sort of extension goes. I don't know how the hell I'm going to get one of those. I mean, we've got rollers at work. I can roll up a panel to go right the way across, and I might just do that and paint it red, stick it on, and it's going to look a lot better than having nothing there at all, even though you don't really see it. But you know what? My knowledge on these is fairly scant. I know about the Aussie stuff, but not so much about these. So advice is sort of the key. If anyone knows stuff that I don't, please tell me. And I think that's about it for this one. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Take good care of yourselves, and I shall see you soon. Well, it's a beautiful day. I'm off work today because there was a COVID case at work, and I'm just a bit worried about that actually. Good time to replace this mirror. Non-genuine. It's got a funny reflection. I've tried to show it on the camera, it doesn't show up, but when you're driving the car, it doesn't seem very safe. Well, of course, we're going to replace it with this genuine one from Addison. And just got a few tools. I'll whip off the door trim. Quite a quick job, and put it in. Quick comparison of both mirrors. This one is literally half the weight of that one. The original Toyota one's. You can't see on camera the deflection in it. It's like it's bent down the bottom. It's sort of curved in. The reflection's all distorted while you're driving. So I'll just fit this one up. I'll be much happier to have this in. Also, if you look into these, the original one, there's a die-cast frame that actually has a stud sitting inside it. These ones are just pushed in. It's a plastic. They're actually quite rubbish, which they'd get away with. If it was sort of colour-coded green and the reflection was good, I would never have known. But genuine's always the best way to go. All good. Matches better than the black too. And the reflection is much, much better. So thanks very much, Addison. What do you reckon? She haven't. Jesus. Move. Move, cat. Move. Move. Come on. I think it.